All right, good evening, folks. So we are proud to be joined tonight by our 2012 leading driver here at Buffalo Raceway, Shawn Gray. And Shawn, first of all, we're going to go through tonight's card and talk to you about each of your mounts, but we want to talk to you about your season last year. You had the best season, actually, in fact, of the history of Buffalo Raceway, over $1 million. Talk to us about how you ended up here in Western New York.
I'm from Maine, originally from Maine. I grew up in Maine and raced in Maine for 20 years. They shut down for 4 months. Excuse me. They shut down for 4 months, and I just had to go somewhere and race. It gets pretty thin there by the time they start back up. Things are a little bit tight. So the class of horses I had, I figured they'd fit in pretty good out here, and I made the move.
And now talk to us a little bit about that. Obviously, over $1 million in purses just from driving here a year ago. But you do train your own stable as well. How many horses typically do you keep? And is that something that you want to continue doing as you move on in the future?
Yeah, I usually keep between 10 and 12 or 13, something like that. 10's actually a better number for me. I get up above that, it gets a little bit hectic. I'd actually like to maybe cut down a little bit this year because I have been doing so much driving. But I definitely want to keep, me and my wife want to keep training horses for sure.
And we're going to talk about one of those stable stars. In fact, I was a co-breeder on her, your open mare last year, Evil Eva, maybe one of the top horses in your barn. She was really a star in the open scene here a year ago.
Yeah, she was a nice little mare. When I got her September 2011, and I thought she'd probably going to be, I liked her, but she never really showed what she did out here. I thought she'd be a 10, 15 claimer. I got her out here, and she just took off. Did a good job breeding her.
Well, I don't know, maybe breeding, not so much selling. We basically gave her away as a baby at the Delaware sale. So, nonetheless, I'm very happy she has worked out and done well. And talk to us about maybe your future a little bit. Obviously, some things up in the air. You got tracks opening up, closing. We're just starting a new season in Buffalo. You're off to another hot start. You have any thoughts maybe moving forward on what the future is for Shawn Gray?
I've pondered the idea of, maybe going to Saratoga when they open up. It's something I've definitely thought about. It's hard to move. It's hard to move from here because I have done so well, and things are going good, and everybody's been great, and I like it. The only downfall is I'm so far from home. It's hard for me to get back and see my family. So it's something I'm thinking about, but we'll see.
Well, we'll keep a close eye on that. We'll always be glad to have you here if you choose to stay at Buffalo. Shawn Gray, over $1 million in purses, the first Buffalo Raceway regular ever with over $1 million in purse earnings. He had 206 wins on the season a year ago. Now, last year was my first year in Western New York as well, Shawn. I made slightly less than $1 million, but we won't get into that. But we're going to get into tonight's card when we get back. Stay tuned. Shawn's got 10 drives on the program, and we'll take a look at each of those when we get back. All right, we're back here to take a look at the Friday night card with Shawn Gray, our 2012 leading driver. And, Shawn, we'll go through each race. You've got 10 drives on tonight's card. Looks like a pretty solid card for you. Beginning here in race one, it looked like you had maybe a tough choice in here. You did go with the 3 Hidden Dragon for trainer Linda Magnuson over the 6 Crystal Guy.
Yeah, I did. That was actually a tough decision. The 6 Crystal Guy, he raced really, really good for me last week. I ended up coming first over with him, and he was scratching right to the wire. He's a nice little horse, and I just hope he don't go by me and make me regret it. But Hidden Dragon, I drove him a couple times last year. He's got real good gate speed. He's a nice old horse, and I kind of like him. He drives nice, and he's just a good old horse, and that's who I chose.
Well, good deal. Best of luck there in the opener. Now, moving on to race 2, maybe a wild card in here for you. San Zambello, a trotter actually shipping in from Cleveland. Now, I believe he did have some success here a year ago. Do we know anything about him going into this one?
I don't know anything about this horse. His paper doesn't look bad. Hopefully, work something out and make it to the winner's circle.
Well, he certainly should have a big shot. He is the morning line favorite. And did have some success again here last year, I believe, as well. So we'll move on to race 3 now on the card. And talk to us about this mare, Shawn, Badlands Brownie. Now, she'd had a bit of time off there before that last start, but she had been ultra consistent at the $4,000 level. But she had a nice trip there and seemed to tire quite badly.
Yeah, she's a little bit grabby. I left kind of hard with her, and I can't remember who was cutting it. Greg Merton was cutting with something, and he just kind of put the brakes on, and she's a little bit grabby. She's a big mare, and I just shut her down, and it was after that, it was too late. Just couldn't get her going again.
Well, tonight, hopefully, maybe she's got a start under her belt off the layoff, and maybe things will work out a bit better for you in there. She should probably be a likely favorite as well. So we'll move on to race 4 now. And you actually ended up probably in your least favorite position, post 8 here with the 8 most wanted Lindy. Now you picked this one up. He is coming off a win there last time. Outside post rather, always tough.
Oh, for sure. Very tough. The only thing I know about this horse, like you said, he did win last week, and he comes from a real good barn, Scott West. I mean, he does really well, and hopefully maybe we can get a piece in there somewhere.
Right. Well, he did have a big late kick there on our opening week card, so we'll look for that once again. Now, moving on to race 5, we actually kick off the pick 4 here, and you're on the morning line favorite once again with the 3, Burl Hanover. And this guy didn't race all that badly, in my opinion, last week. He just had no shot, got caught in the back, sprinted home well. Now he takes a drop in class.
Yeah, definitely. That helped. I was down on the 5 as well, and that dropping down in class helped me decide to take the 3. I mean, he is inside as well. I drove him at Batavia the 2 starts ago, and I moved him, and he was just flat out gone. Last week, like you said, it was slow up. Well, they sprinted home good, and it was his first start. He raced well, but I'm looking for him to be a little better tonight.
Well, good deal. We'll definitely look for that. Maybe a drop-in pop there in race 5 to kick off that pick 4. And now moving on to race 6, we've got another wild card potentially. Morning line favorite once again, Talladega Hanover for trainer Dan Waske. Appears to be a fairly soft spot here for that level.
Yeah, he shows, 56 at the Meadows. You can't go wrong with that. Don't know anything about him either. He looks like he should be pretty tough in there. Yeah,
well, definitely nice to have an inside post and another favorite there. We'll see how things shake out in race 6. Now, we do skip over race 7, and now in the featured event on the night, the Open Trot, you've got the 6 Keystone Bernard. Now, talk to us about this one, another one for Team Rice. You sat last week. I thought you had absolutely no shot, and down the stretch, you made up an absolute ton of ground to pick up the victory.
Yeah, he pretty much takes the first 3/4 of the mile off. He's a little bit lazy, and it's hard to get him into it. And then, around the last turn, he'll pick you up a little bit. And in the stretch, if you're close, he'll, track him down.
Well, that was certainly a phenomenal effort there a week ago, and just a wild scramble at the finish. They were actually 4 across the track, so we'll look forward probably with another off-the-pace rally there in the feature with Keystone Bernard. Now we skip over race 9, and we move into race 10, another claiming pace here. And you've got another short price morning line with the 4 No Shenanigans. May not know a whole lot about this guy, but you've got a live barn there, trainer David Sabatelli, and he has qualified twice coming into this one.
Yeah, that last qualifier looks pretty strong. Not like you said, I never drove him. I don't know much about him, but I'm sure Mr. Sabatelli would tell me all I need to know.
I would assume so, and he has a 55 mark from Saratoga last year, so don't think he'll have any trouble getting around the half-mile oval tonight. So we'll look out for No Shenanigans in race 10. We skip over race 11, and we move into our 12th race to kick off the late double here with your first drive, the 5 Real Jenna. Now, she's been off quite some time since Batavia. You did drive in her last start. She made up some ground. May need to start here with her?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, she definitely needs a starter, too. She gets into it late, but she's going to need a couple starts.
Good deal. We'll look for that then in race 12. And moving on now to the Friday night finale, race 13. You've got yet another morning line favorite, the 4 Trickle Hanover. Now, you drove this guy last time for trainer Dan Waske. Not a big winner. He was only 1 for 22, but you're really dropping out of the sky here. This is probably as low as it's going to get.
Yeah, he's not a big winner, and I drove this horse last week, and I really actually liked him quite a bit. I suggested maybe a couple rigging changes, and hopefully it'll work out, and I look for him to be okay.
Well, good deal. We'll certainly look for that. Maybe we can go out a winner there with the 4 Trickle Hanover in the finale. We'll look for those changes and see if we can get a better effort tonight. Shawn, we thank you for joining us here on the Friday night card. Best of luck out there, and we hope to see you around a lot here in the 2013 season.
Great. Thank you.
All right, we're back here with driver Shawn Gray. We're going to tee up the Saturday night action. Shawn, 10 drives on tonight's card. Should be another good program for you, and we'll go through each one specifically here on the Saturday night card. Beginning in race 1, you've got the 2 Kiasma. I was very impressed by this guy last time. Didn't really like him, I'll have to admit, but he raced super, got up the inside for trainer Bobby Joe Martin.
Yeah, no, he was exceptional. I wasn't sure going into it either. You know, he took me out of the gate. I ended up getting a good trip. I got a 2-hole trip, and he was just, you know, had a lot of pace the whole way and come up the inside, and he went easy. He's a good horse.
Certainly the 17.5 appeared to be no problem for him here. I believe he had 1 for 10 there, freehold, but no problem with the class jump here in his first local start. We'll move on now to race 2 with you, Shawn. You've got trainer Dan Waskey here, a $10,000 claimer. He's been competitive against a similar company over at the Meadows. Maybe not have driven this guy before, but what can you tell us about this guy?
He looks like, you know, it's nice paper, 54, 55 at the Meadows, and he has raced this year. You know, he makes a big difference if they race this year, and, you know, and they're tighter, and some of the other horses, you know, aren't as tight. He looks like he's a, you know, pretty good horse, and he should be okay.
No question about that. We've actually seen some big prices here in our opening week at Buffalo Raceway, where horses have had starts, and it's really paid off. Some of these breaks have really detrimented a couple of favorites out there. So we skip over race 3 on Saturday night, and we now move to race 4. And I really want to talk to you about this guy. You actually own him as well, but you're in post 8 tonight, G5. He just dominated here and actually beat a pretty solid field for this level last week.
Yeah, actually I don't own that horse. If you notice the middle initial, it's Shawn J. Gray. I've been asked that, you know, many times since Chris and I moved up here. It's you know, kid from Maine that first time out on his own, and he's actually doing real well. But they asked me to drive this horse for him, and he's actually a real nice horse. A little bit grabby, and got to quiet down a little bit, but he's got the 8-hole. You know, I think he's got to learn how to race a little bit in here, so maybe not expect big things. But he's a nice horse.
Yeah, he really looked solid last week, so we'll see a rarity, I suppose. Shawn Gray driving for Shawn J. Gray, so we'll look for that in race 4. Now, moving on to race 5, you land right back outside once again with Arts on Fire. Now, this is with your wife's barn, Alicia Gray there. Arts on Fire, solid effort there. He draws bad once again, though, post 8.
Yeah, no, for sure. That kind of bothered me a little bit. But another one, last week I really didn't want to leave with this horse. He took me out of there, you know, hard. I was actually looking to maybe leave, you know, float out of there and find a spot. There wasn't any, so I had to drive for the front, and I really didn't want to do that. So he's got to learn how to race as well. So maybe, you know, take him off the gate and drive him up the inside and hope for the best.
Well, the good thing is here at Buffalo, I would assume, you know, you have a lot of inside room, unlike some other half-mile tracks. You know, if you do get caught on the inside, there's a big passing lane. You have plenty of room to make up some ground down the stretch.
Yeah, no, for sure. If things work out, you can really make up some ground.
Now, we do skip over race 6 on the Saturday night card. We move right into race 7. Now, you're right here with trainer Dave Sabatelli with the 2 Evil Mind. You've got a morning line favorite there. Not sure what happened with this guy last week. Greg Merton was aboard, and he shows a break there, nasty break, but was in great form prior to that.
Yeah, really good form, and he still come back and paced 2 minutes after that break, you know, over a less than perfect track. You know, I'm sure he's probably got him figured out, and things will work out in our favor, I hope.
Post 2 with a lot of early speed, so that always typically can be parlayed into some success as well. So we'll look for that with Evil Mind in race 7. Now, race 8, we do have our featured race of the night, the open pace, Weiser's Deluxe. Your mount in here from post 6. You gave him a perfect trip there a week ago, and he ended up a game second.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham told me that the horse might not be as tight as he'd liked. You know, he said don't do anything stupid, and you know, drive him up the inside and get what you get. He did get a great trip, and he finished up, you know, reasonably strong. So hopefully he'll be a little bit tighter and a little bit faster.
Well, a very nice horse. So Weiser's Deluxe there hit the board actually in 18 of 27 a year ago. So we'll look for a continued improvement there. That was actually our leading trainer from a year ago, Jim Graham. So we'll move on into race 9 now. You do end up on the 5 Real Jewel, who raced okay last time, finished up a decent third, maybe even a softer spot tonight. You draw mid-pack post 5.
Yeah, this horse got a lot of go. He's kind of friendly though. You know, he doesn't mind if horses get away from him. He's probably the best horse in the race. Whether or not we can get on the same page and win, you know, I don't know. But Raven Wagner, he told me he said he'll get him dialed in and things will be better.
Well, we'll look for the dialed-in part there on tonight's card. That's race 9 with number 5 Real Jewel. Now, race 10, you actually picked up drive there on the inside. Now, you've had plenty of familiarity with this guy for the Holiday Stable. Obey the Command. He's in for 4,000. He drew post 1.
Yeah, you know, he's got all kinds of go as well. He's a little bit strong in the face. You know, the rail's not a great spot for him. Hopefully, maybe they got him quieted down a little bit from last year. He's got plenty of go, and you know, hoping things work out there.
Well, we got post 1, drew the inside there, so like you said, maybe the rail not an advantage, but if you can get him out of there, they'll probably have to be forced to get around Obey the Command late in that one. Race 11 now on deck. Cool Man Cool, you're driving here. You drove him last time. He'd had a couple of months off. Just appeared to me he was a bit short in there. I'm sure trainer Jim Graham will try and have him dialed in for this effort.
Yeah, no, and that race went real fast. That was a big mile last week. They went in 58 flat, off a half in a minute. I mean, they were flying home. He was going all he could go. He just couldn't get nowhere.
Now, wouldn't discount that line too much. Cool Man Cool in there was 5th, beating just over 12 lengths, but in my memory serves me correctly, the second place finish was beating almost 9 or 10 in there, so you weren't too far behind.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll look for that Cool Man Cool race 11. And now your final drive here on the Saturday night card comes in race 12 with the 5 Brody Hanover. Now, this is a fresh claim for trainer Earl Curbis Jr. He actually came from trainer Megan Wilson. Going to be your first time on him. He has some early speed, though, and stays right at the same level.
Yeah. I never drove him, but I've seen him race a lot. He's a pretty nice horse. Yeah, no, we'll see what happens. Sometimes training changes are good and sometimes they're bad.
We'll see what happens with Brody Hanover. Shawn's actually off tonight in the finale, so we'll look forward to all of your mounts on the Saturday night card. Shawn, we really thank you for coming in with us here on this Saturday night. Good luck with all of your selections while you're with us this evening. First post coming up at 6:40.